Why do women boxers have to wear headgear but not men? Also, why don't professional boxers have to wear them either? Well, this has a twist that I wasn't expecting. You see, boxing was first introduced during the 1904 St. Louis Olympic Games, and it was to men only. And if you look back, up until 1984, all previous Olympic boxing matches were very similar to professional boxing matches in that they didn't have headgear. But then in 1982, something happened. See, in a match between boxer Kim Duk-koo and Ray Mancini, the South Korean fighter was hit with his hard right hand and he was TKO'd in the 14th round. Now, he did attempt to pull himself up on the ropes, but then he collapsed and the match was called off. He was rushed to the hospital for a head injury, where unfortunately he did pass away 5 days later. And this was all televised live on CBS in the United States, and it led to major changes in the sport of boxing. Rounds were then shortened from 14 rounds down to 12 rounds, and they implemented mandatory headgear for the first time at the 1984 Los Angeles Olympic Games. So for the next 30 years, protective helmets were mandatory for all male athletes at all the Olympics, and also for women once women boxing first was introduced at the London 2012 Olympics. Then, prior to the 2016 Rio Olympics, a major study by the Global Sports Institute found that headgear actually increased the likelihood of concussion, not decreased them. They stated that referees had to stop matches for head injuries 43% more often when headgear was worn. Head guards were considered to increase the risk of blows to the head by 16% because the padding around the eyes limited the boxer's vision, making it harder for the boxers to dodge punches. Headgear also increased the target area of the head, and because of this, boxers were taking less glancing hits and more powerful rotational hits, which are more likely to cause concussions. However, the more convincing hypothesis was that headgears gave a false sense of safety. So boxers were engaging in riskier behaviors in the ring than they would if they were not wearing them. So why did they remove headgear for men and not women? Well, they're still mandatory for the women's category because the study was only conducted on men. Women's boxing is a relatively new addition to the Olympics, and so there's less data, and they didn't know if it would still apply. Other argument was, quote, concussions aren't as much of an issue for women because the punches lack the power to cause brain injuries. But that argument doesn't work because boxer Becky Zelentes did pass away after receiving a blow to the head despite wearing protective headgear. Comment down below what you think should happen, because the IBA said that they do eventually plan to remove headgear for women as well, but only once appropriate safety data becomes available and not before. Oh, and what about professional boxers? Well, this one's simple. They avoid headgear because their face is their brand, and prize fights are more fan-centric, so knockouts, blood, it tends to make for better ratings.